So this week's big topic, with Ange Postecoglou about to enter his 4th transfer window as Celtic manager, who are the core players he should continue to develop the squad around? James, I'll come to you first, but who do you see as the 2 to 3 guys that are absolutely vital to this Celtic side moving forward?
It's interesting because there's players you want to keep, and then I think we're putting this category out as players that we cannot sell under any circumstances. And for me, there's 3 there.
Before I go on, we know you're taking this seriously when the goggles go on.
The spreadsheet's out.
Yeah, spreadsheet's out, glasses are on. James, what you got?
So the only 3 I would keep, we've done a wee bit of kind of sketch on the squad here, 27 odd players, value of 171 million according to me.
Sir David Murray.
So I would keep, the 3 I would keep and not sell under any circumstances is Carter Vickers, Kalmak and Rio Hatate. There's a lot of other guys in there that I would like to keep, but we're going to come under pressure here from, teams are going to be putting bids higher than I've got in this sheet, and we need to be realistic that say if somebody comes in with 25 million for Matt O'Reilly, which is actually not unrealistic to expect offers like that because his age, his progress, his versatility, everything, maybe he's just his pace holding back a wee bit, but he'll be ticking a lot of boxes on scouting sheets. There could be heavy bids for him. I think there'll be, I've put Juranovic down as 10 million. I don't think we'll sell him for less than 15. So that's my 3. What about yourselves? Who would you?
Well, I was just going to say that there's also, within that conversation, there's a lot to be said for how Celtic have contracted these players. Pretty much everyone that came in under Ange's 4 and 5 year deals, including James McCarthy, which is a controversial one. But they've signed guys like Kyogo and Starfelt and Haksabanovic, all these guys, 4-year deals with an option seems to be the way. So it puts you in a hugely strong position as a club that sell if you want, but it's going to take a big price to get them.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have to. I mean,
Juranovic is May 2026.
Yeah, so you don't need to sell him at any point unless somebody comes in with crazy money. And on that, Brad, I mean, before we talk about who's going out the door, who are the 2 or 3 players you feel are absolutely pivotal? So James has mentioned there, Carter Vickers, Kalmak and Rio Hatate. Where do you stand?
I would agree with those 3. I'd probably... Jota for me would be at least another year. If we're going to, I know what you're saying, but I think if we're going to build, we don't. Celtic have done it for years, and other clubs may haven't done it, and that is being able to sell at the right time, and then going and finding another one. And it's probably the hardest thing to do, and that's why we find ourselves, where we are. Other clubs have tried it in that kind of transition phase, if you like, and it's so difficult. So when you get kind of golden nuggets like Jota, I think to get one, we obviously had him on loan the season before when we had 2 years with him. But I would say if we get another season with him and then build on that, he would develop as a player because he's still developing, still young, and he would essentially then increase in value even more. So if he's under contract, the pressure can come unless the player really kind of made it known to Ange that he didn't want to. That's where the pressure I'd be looking at.
And you're gone. Once that happens, Ange
will he's away.
Aye.
That's exactly what happens.
Which is fine as well, because that's part of football. But if you want to go, it's up to you and your agent to go and find the suitable bid.
Number.
So,
right.
If the buying club wants to pay X, then off you go, whoever that may be. I just think perhaps not enough credit has gone to the club, James, for just... it was one thing rebuilding a team in Ange's first transfer window when we signed, 13, 14, 15 guys. But it's one thing getting them in the door. The other part of it is just how secure they are. I'm looking down the list here and there's guys contracted to 2026, 2027. The majority of guys are, on those types of deals, and it leaves the club in a very healthy position.
It does. My preference post Lennon was scorched earth, as I've said before.
Yeah.
And you're experienced in bringing players through in teams and stuff yourself, and you say, look, that might be a nice idea, but bonding players is so hard to do at such a volume, such numbers, and he's done it.
Lenny took him to Dubai. He was trying his best with the bonding.
But he's done it, and it's not even that he'd done it in the first tranche. In January, bringing guys into a team that's established, starting to tick, a lot of talent in there, a lot of big captain-type players, but Hatate, Maeda, the rest of them, they all just slotted right in. So they seem to have worked a way, we've said a few times in the show, culture beats strategy, and it's the culture that Ange has put together that is allowing players to come in and also go. It'll be part of the culture that, that's a shame, we'd love to have kept you, but, the offer's there and, we'll have to replace you. The key point now is what Mark Law and his team are doing in terms of yeah, you can let him go because we've got 5 options and they're X price. So if you sell him for 10, we sign him for 2, and then we sell him for 10 and we sign him for 2, and so on. And it just cycles around. They're as organised as I've ever seen Celtic, and it's good to see.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, with all that, said and done, and, James has mentioned Carter Vickers, Calmac, Rio, you've added Jota to the mix. Who are the players that you feel are dispensable then? Who are the players that you feel that we could afford to move out the door and would be able to find a replacement soon enough? You've mentioned Juranovic, and we've spoken about him in recent weeks. He certainly seems to be kind of top of the list in a lot of fans' heads. But is there anyone else, James, that jumps out that you think happy enough to lose them, if that's the right term, because we know we can go and replace them?
So I've got 4 categories: must keep or sell, which is, I'd like to keep him, but if an offer came in, keep like good squad players, like you're not even squad players, sorry, but like key players like Ralston that you'd like to keep in around, and guys that I would sell. I think they're not quite fitting the model. In terms of the valuations, the must keep guys in my numbers, which are pretty conservative to be honest with you, are 38 million. The keep sell, you'd like to keep them, but you could take an offer, 66 million. The keep 45, just under 46 million. The sell, the guys I think are surplus to requirements or not fitting the model, there's 21 million of value there in those players. So even rotating that for guys who can come in and take their places for a much lesser budget, creates that budget to go. We've talked about that, a few of us think we need to sign a 10, 50 million pound striker. That's possible if you take 21 million pound out of the squad that isn't really fitting anyway, in my opinion. What
I'll do, I'll share this with your permission, James, this spreadsheet on social. Am I breaching GDPR rules? Is that gone now with the Euro stuff?
I think they're public people, so I think they're all right.
Yeah. So I'll share these figures because it is interesting, Bridal, just to have a kind of a snapshot at, loose figures. James will be right with some, a wee bit high, a wee bit low with others, but it gives you a benchmark, doesn't it, in terms of how that squad's shaping up?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as fans, we're always wanting more all the time. That's our job, is to demand more all the time. I do think at times the club don't get the credit that they deserve. A lot of the time we're quick enough to kind of pull the trigger on them and and give them a really hard time. But when they've managed to do this over, in football terms, a reasonably small amount of time, and when you look at that list, you're going, right, okay, and we're all very comfortable around players might leave. Excuse me. You've got Juranovic is a good example, obviously, but you have to sell him in January, and you've got Ralston in there, who's playing equally as well as him just now.
I think that's been outstanding,
and then you look at the guys like, I'm looking at the players whose contracts are perhaps out the year after, David Turnbull's of the world and things like that. Again, I think David Turnbull's a good football player, but is he somebody that every Celtic fan, we know some that definitely don't say that, wants to keep and develop and whatever else? Has he maybe had enough chances, he's just not done it? So if you sold guys like that, the club will move on quite easily from that, and find somebody who will influence the game more, as opposed to what they're doing. So, yeah, I think all the credit's got to go to the recruitment team, the manager, and everybody else round about it, because we are in a very strong position on every position on the park.
Yeah. Quick fire answers. I'm just going to ask you 3 guys, keep or sell. Stephen Welsh.
Sell.
David Turnbull.
Sell.
And this one's maybe not fair because we've not seen enough, but Ideguchi.
Sell.
Sell, same all 3.
Sell all 3.
I think Welsh, I think it's better for him if he goes. I think for the same reason it's going to be difficult for Bosalol to come through, too slow. I think even in the friendly games they're showing that. Ideguchi, we'll never know maybe if it could have been, but it's circumstance more than anything else. And who was the middle one?
Turnbull.
Well,
we know James's feelings on the bill. Very, very harsh.
Great player.
The thing about Welsh though is that it's difficult to go and sign a 4th choice centre back that's happy to be the 4th choice centre back.
Who wants to come and play on occasion?
It's quite difficult.
The way Ange does it is you're going to get game time.
That's true.
That is true. And you can sign guys saying you're going to get game. I mean, I think that was a big part we said before about Giacomakis coming in, because he was saying, listen, I'm going to be top scorer. I'm your number 9. He's like, aye, but you'll play and you'll not play. So we've got that pitch and we got the player in the end. So I think we can do it. Any Celtic player that is on that sheet, I'm disappointed if it doesn't work out for them. But it's a tough game.
And just on that, James, there's players who aren't on that sheet that I want to talk about. So there's some players out on loan. I'll come to you first, Bridal, but there's some loanees that I think there's a bundle and there's maybe about 9 or 10 guys out on loan at various clubs. Is there anyone that you think may have a future at the club? James knows where I'm going with this one. Mikey Johnson's my guy. I think he's a real talent. But out with Mikey Johnson, you've got guys like Adam Montgomery. You know, he's out at St Johnstone doing okay. Liam Scales, he's a first choice at Aberdeen, but is at his level. And you've also got guys like Albion Ayeti and Barkas, as we know. Anyone that you think is a future, Bridal, or do you think not for any of them and we move on?
I don't think any of them do, no. I think Mikey Johnson, I was sick of hearing that he's got potential all the time.
From him?
Yeah, a lot from Tino. But
I've really, really enjoyed your first and last time on the show.
And you know something? I mean, I did that for a while as well, but not anywhere near as prolonged as you've done it. But he just... big moments in big games, he didn't turn up, and we need that. And to play for Celtic, you've got to be able to have the bottle to do that when you're having a bad time. And I just don't see him doing that. He's went away and done it in a different league for another. Portugal's, isn't it, or something?
Guimarães in Portugal.
Yeah, so fair play. Like, he's going and done that. He's maybe that type of player that needs to be the main man in a team and go and do that. But at Celtic, that just doesn't happen unless you are an elite level player that we get maybe 2 or 3 of them in a team. So I think he could go and be the main man at Hibs or something and do really well for them, but I don't think he's much above that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm not going to waste time and defend him just now, James, because if anyone wants to hear me defending Mikey Johnson, roll back all the tapes. I've done it for hours and hours in the previous weeks.
I think he's got a shot. I really do. I think Ange sent him out with a purpose to see what he can do. So he'll be getting monitored every single game by Celtic, and they'll know what he's doing and what he's not doing. And I think he'll have an early part of pre-season with Celtic, and it'll be, you know, can you do it, can you not? And that'll be his chance, because they won't let him step into the season, you know, if he's not going to make it.
I think that would be about right, and I think that's an interesting point, that of the loanees that Celtic have just now, you know, the various players at various clubs, some are ones that they'll be keeping an eye on, and some are just there to take the burden off of wages. I've no doubt that Ayeti and Barkas and a couple of others, it's just until we can run down their contract or claw back a couple of quid. With others like Mikey Johnson and maybe Adam Montgomery, young Johnny Kenny, I think's out on loan somewhere. Maybe, yep. So they will have an eye on some others, but by and large, James, there's nobody chapping the door from the loanees that you think of?
I think Johnny Kenny's one that certainly can't be judged. We'll need to see what you can do. He's not had a chance at Celtic, you know, just with age. Montgomery and Scales. So if you look at Van Dijk at Celtic, he just stood out like a sore thumb, right? So Montgomery and Scales should be standing out at the same level at their respective levels. With no disrespect to those clubs, that's just the levels we're talking. I think Scales is doing well. I had high hopes for him when he first came in, but I just don't see it's kicked on. Montgomery, he's played his part in, you know, a crucial season last year. It's just whether he's got that level to step up, and I don't see it from what I've seen, which isn't a lot, but I don't think so. I think Mikey Johnson and Johnny Kenny are the only ones that we'll have a serious look at coming back. Okay.
So obviously throughout this spreadsheet, as I say, we will share it. There's so much, there's 27 players, and there's, you know, keep, sell, maybe, and all that kind of stuff. And it's quite a big squad to keep happy as well. And obviously we know the way Ange plays his football, that to an extent he can keep some guys happy, but some guys, you know, will find themselves just desperate for first. Gucci might make the choice to move before Ange moves them on, for example. But all that aside, Bridal, what do you think the most important area for us to improve on is, you know, just squad-wise in a very general sense? Where do you think we really need to strengthen?
I think we need to be proactive in looking at a good replacement for Joe Hart. I don't know if Segrist will be that answer or not. I think he's a good goalkeeper, but I don't know. And I would be saying that in the top end of the pitch, more clinical players when we get to that better level. I think that if we're going to advance, that's what I'd be looking at.
It's exactly where I am as well, James. Both ends of the park, at the back with the goalie, and I've said it before, Joe Hart has been fantastic for Celtic, but if we want to kick on, we need better. And at the top end, Hugo Furuhashi is one of my favourite Celtic players in modern times. Absolutely love Furuhashi, and I'm fond of Giakoumakis, but I do feel, to Bridal's point, if we do want to reach these higher heights, and that's where Ange is targeting, then we need better. Yeah. Harsh as that may sound.
That's just football, you know. That's why I've got Bain as a sell, because apparently he's a great guy for the dressing room, but apparently it's McCarthy as well. You know, it's a really expensive jokers, you know.
I'd be a good McCarthy for the dressing.
Exactly, give me 20 grand a week.
I think it's higher than 20.
Certainly between the two of them. So if you take Bain out and bring a third keeper in that is challenging Hart and Siegrist, but is actually your number one, I think we need to go sign a Champions League goalie. No, not a goalie who's playing Champions League, but a goalie who can hit the Champions League heights. And then that'll be Hart and Siegrist playing it out for second spot. Hart's 35. He knows how football works. Even as a goalie, he'll know that opportunities are becoming less and less after this season. So I think he'd be realistic enough on that. Whether he then wants to play lower league, because he does want to play football. That was why he's come to Celtic. But I'd love to have him around as a sub goalie, as maybe even moving into coaching with Stevie Woods in the team there, because the experience he's got and having changed his style at a late stage, that's great experience to be able to pass on to the other goalies.
I think Hart could be a great transitional type goalie for Celtic because he's been brilliant. He's had a year and a half, close to 2 years of memories that he maybe thought were past him. I think he was ready to hang up the gloves and it was all over. He's now found a place where he's absolutely loved, he's revered, he's having a great time, and maybe when he finds himself as the backup, he would hang around. It'd be great for anyone else that comes in alongside him. Last question on this section, aside from the individuals and who may come and go, what do you think, Brido, in terms of Ange, and what he's looking to do? Does he view this as a project for the future? He seems to speak in all the right words. He was interviewed several times back in Australia. They're trying to throw the Leicester job at him and different things. But do you genuinely see him as someone who views Celtic as a long-term project?
Yes, I do. And he won't be there forever because he's openly kind of said that as well. But he's not a guy who chases money for himself. He's wanting to make his mark in the game. And he has done that even before he got to Celtic, let's be honest with what he's done with Australia and Australian football in general. But I think he really, really wants to make a mark at a club the size of Celtic. So he's all in, and I think he would continue to be all in. And if he wasn't, he wouldn't be there. But I think he would. Yeah,
I think Brido is leading towards legacy, and I think that's where Ange sees himself. James, do you agree with that?
To a degree, yeah. I think he wants to put the structures in place, but I think he's an ambitious guy. He's on record as saying he doesn't want to, be managing forever. He wants to enjoy his life, and he's his job has ran his life. And what's he now, 56? I think 57. So there'll come a time where he goes, right, that's plenty. He's not going to be one of those managers still kind of kicking about 17, 8 years old. So he want to enjoy his retirement, but before he leave Celtic, you want to put foundations down in place. Absolutely. And you can see it. This sheet tells you that he's putting those foundations in place. And the next iteration of this sheet will be probably the real Ange team that really does damage.
I view Ange Postecoglou and Celtic as a bit of a perfect storm, the way it all came together. And it's easy. Everything's easy with the benefit of hindsight, but he just seems the perfect fit for the club and has done for some time now. And that's in so many ways. It's the style of play. He understands Celtic Football Club has always been and will always be about attacking football. It's the immigrant roots that Celtic were all about and what he as an individual is all about. It's the fan base. It's the passion. It's the desire and the will to win. And it's everything. And it's just all come together. And it feels a wee bit, and this may sound dramatic, but it feels a wee bit like he's a once in a lifetime type Celtic manager, and we may not get another fit like him for some time whenever he decides to move on.
No, he might not get something like him, but Celtic, we always do, we move on, don't we? And we go and find something else that we can champion. But to probably a lot of Celtic fans, similar ages to all of us, would say probably their favourite Celtic manager, not necessarily for the stuff on the park, or not only that, but I've said it a few times now, it's just how he conducts himself and how he represents our club. And that's even with difficult situations, regarding questions that other managers didn't answer or didn't want to answer. He seems to face up to it, and he answers it. And because he's an honest, genuine person, I think the media, he's got a good relationship with them, even if they are trying to trip him up, but he's not daft. Mm-hmm. So, for me, as a Celtic manager, that is a must, is being able to manage that. And we've seen some managers do it really badly, But we've also got the trust as fans in him that he won't just ditch us whenever somebody comes calling. So I'm fairly confident that if he was to move on at any stage, it would be a kind of controlled, acceptable way.
That's kind of what I'm at. You said something earlier on there, we'll do what we've always done. We need to stop doing that because that's been bad for us.
That's true.
But interestingly, we're this season in particular, or last season as well, we're doing things that we've never done, under new leadership. So my hope would be that Ange and Michael Nicholson have got such a strong relationship. When it comes to, Ange says as soon as he's not challenged anymore, and that could be as soon as next season. If you get to the end of next season and he's done something really strong, Champions League wise, treble wise, all that kind of stuff, then he might go, right, I need the challenge again. But I'm hoping Nicholson and Ange have got the relationship to go, I'm starting to feel if an opportunity comes along, I'd probably take it. So how do we plan the succession, right? I'd imagine there's conversations already, at least between Ange and Mark Lawwell, of he's a good manager, he's an up-and-coming manager, he's established, he starts to play the way that we play Knutson kind of stuff, that kind of idea.
David Martindale,
yeah. John Kennedy.
Hey,
you could do worse
because he's just behind Mikey Johnson on my list of favourites.
I know, I
think that's a fair point. Somebody who's been immersed in Ange's culture, could he take it on? Does he have the personality to then push that, push his own personality through with an Ange type message? Maybe not. Ange would certainly know. But that is the succession plan, and I'd really like to see in place before he goes. Whenever Ange goes, I mean, if he went tomorrow, he would go with my best wishes, but please don't.
Please don't go. Yeah. I don't think there's any doubt that Celtic will always, or should always have some sort of list, a provisional list for if worst comes to the worst.
It's in the draw.
In the top drawer next to all the CVs. But yeah, we're hopeful. I mean, the signs are there that it's long term. You just need to watch any number of Ange's recent interviews, particularly back home in Australia, where he is more relaxed. You can see it in his interviews, the body language and everything is just a bit more chilled out. And he's actually quite humorous. You see a bit of that about him. But he's always, as I say, they try to coax him into an answer with the Leicester job and different things. And he's saying, listen, I'm at a huge place. I'm extremely happy. And I just think at the moment Celtic can meet his ambitions. He sees a project here. He certainly thrives on a challenge, and there's no doubt we've still got, bigger heights to reach, James, but I think he feels that he can do all that at Celtic. And what's going to be really interesting, as I say, he's just about to get into his 4th transfer window here in January. Let's see how this team shapes up after window 5 and 6 and 7 under Ange. But exciting times, and it's a discussion we'll continue to revisit in the months ahead. Before we move on to the final section for this week, I just want to pick out a couple of the reviews we've received recently from some of our listeners. These are very much appreciated by all of us here at the show and really help us with what we're doing. So first up, Martin D72 says, my go-to among the Celtic podcasts, always great content delivered in a most enjoyable format. All the guys speak from the heart and all matters Celtic, and long may it continue. So thanks to Martin for that. And the other one I'd like to highlight is from Danielle, 571990, quite a catchy nickname there. And Danielle says, really look forward to the podcast coming out every week. One of the best out there. Hail, hail. And as I say, these reviews really help us continue to grow the show here. So if you are enjoying what we do and want to provide us with a bit of support, then please take 60 seconds or so to leave us a short review at Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And again, a huge thanks to Uncle Martin and Auntie Danielle for those. Very much appreciated.